Hi, I am so excited to be welcoming you onto this training session. Today, we're going to be talking about impact and how you, as a coach, therapist, or well-being consultant, can make a difference at scale by offering your expertise to organizations. We will do that by walking through my journey and my experiences and lessons and the business models and approaches that we use today at Elite Mind, so you can also replicate some of those processes. I will also share with you some opportunities for how you can get involved and be part of our mission to build a better future for mental health and well-being. So without further ado, let's get started. So how exactly we can make an impact at scale by working with organizations? If you are a caring, heart-centered professional, as most of us in this industry are, you are probably not so happy to see where this world is going. So recent pandemic and chronic illnesses, mental health crisis, toxic working cultures, increasing suicide rates, impeding environmental disaster, all the conflict and wars. In face of all of this, let's admit it's very easy to feel very small and powerless and not being able to make a big difference. Everything that we do feels we are just chipping away, maybe helping one little person to solve one small challenge. But it's difficult to see the impact of our actions that has on other people, right? But the whole purpose of this webinar is to show you that you can do that. And it is possible to build a new ecosystem of support when each and every one of you can be that expert change driver. And we can do that at scale by working in organizations. So what are we going to learn today? Well, we are going to look at current mental health system and why people say that it's broken? What's wrong with it? We will look at how organizational well-being strategy can help to fix that problem and how we can apply human research science and leverage your unique area of expertise to drive that impact at scale. We will also learn how to measure that impact so you can demonstrate the ROI of those services and get paid for doing that work. Most importantly, how to build a network of supportive professionals so we can really together transform not only individual lives, but organizations, governments, healthcare, and education systems for a better future. So there are four main ingredients that we believe are prerequisites for that impact at scale and for being able to apply our services to organizations. So those are behavioral science, business strategy, impact measures, and support network. But before we dig in deeper into each of those, let's have a look at why we need to be fixing the current world and what is wrong with the current mental health situation. So I would like you to meet Renee. She's been struggling with her mental health since she was 14 years old. And by the time she was 19, she was on 10 psychiatric drugs. And in addition to that, she also had some supplements and contraception on top of this. And even though this article is from US, but I still wanted to use this example because it's just such a good example illustrating that medication is still a first choice of treatment for mental health. And we don't really address the real underlying issues, and we just numb the symptoms with medication. Now, around 30% of population are on antidepressants. It can take up to 6 weeks to 6 months to feel the difference, and people try and average 4 drugs to find something that works for them. Crazy, right? Some people stay on medication for the rest of their lives, and it's not out of choice. It's because they are not given any other choice. We disempower people through the way we look at treating some of those mental illnesses. And it does more harm than good. Even though medication has its place, that should be a choice and educated option alongside some other approaches. Now, talking about that disempowerment, I would like you to look at the case of Brennan Morgan. Now, she's been struggling with mental health issues since she was very little, and she couldn't get support. So when she grew up, she decided that she wants to become a mental health nurse. And she couldn't receive support throughout her struggles. And she believed that by being part of the system and by understanding how it works, she will be able to help herself better. But despite her being in training and despite her being a professional in mental health field, she feels that nobody has ever involved her in her decisions over her treatment plans at all. So she's completely lost all the hope, to the point that she didn't believe that she can make any difference in her recovery, and she ended up taking her own life. So we've mentioned the system. We mentioned that the system is not equipped to provide for the current situation. Well, why? Because first of all, it's really outdated and ineffective. It's really built on the principles that maybe were to a degree effective several centuries ago, but it's really, regardless of the latest science and technological innovation, the mental health system really remains stuck in those Middle Ages. Demand is greater than the system can cope with, and the long waiting lists are really, it's difficult to comprehend that someone who's struggling to get over their day would be put on a waiting list that can take sometimes up to several years. And when you get that support, the quality of that support is really a postcode lottery based on where you are and where you live. The professionals' availability and the quality of support can really, really vary. And a lot of people are not getting support that they deserve. Most people, we've learned that most people don't have budget for their own health and well-being. So no wonder that, of course, they rely on the public healthcare or also on other charities to provide for their health and well-being. And of course, for as long as we rely on someone or something else to save us and to help us, we will never have enough resources to be able to cope with the scale of it. So you would think that in that case, it would make it an obvious choice to go private. However, as you know, that is just simply unaffordable to many people. And even if you can afford it, well, where do you start? There are so many different types of therapies. How do you decide what do you need? Therapy, what kind of type? Psychology, counseling? Do you need to see a psychiatrist? Do you need to see a coach? So for someone who's struggling to get out of bed in the morning, to make those decisions and to choose the right support is just an impossible task, which also means that it's easy for people to fall into hands of those unqualified professionals who can do more harm than good. And coaching is very widely unregulated industry, and the word therapist is an unprotected title. So anyone could call themselves coach or a therapist. So how do you really know that you are choosing someone you can trust and someone that can truly help you and not just profit from your misfortune? And this is really, really important to address. And part of the training and accreditations that we are building are really to reinstate the trust back into the system and to help individuals to make those choices and direct them to the right specialists for the right reasons. So with public healthcare not being able to cope with a challenge, with difficulty in choosing private services, and also with individuals not having budget for their own mental health, it becomes a no-brainer that we expect our employers to provide for our health and well-being needs. And I'm really happy to see that as in response to pandemic, businesses are really taking on that responsibility. There is a lot of talk about the importance of looking after your employee health, providing supportive cultures and well-being. So there's a great opportunity for businesses to build those supportive environments. However, when we look at the quality of that support, we can see that smaller businesses are struggling to do it in the right way. Sometimes because of lack of budget, or just simply not being able to find the right specialists. And when you look at the large corporate organizations that have more resources, it's really sad to see that most of their interventions are still at this very superficial conversational level without being embedded strategically. So this creates a huge opportunity because we know that there is a need and we know that there is a gap, and organizations have that budget and willingness to help, but they simply don't know how. That's where we can come in to fill that gap. So all of those things combined, you can see that the current system is just simply not equipped to address the scale of the problem. And we don't want to be fixing that sinking boat. So we are building a new system. We are building an ecosystem of support where all of those different elements combined can provide for each other's needs. An ecosystem of support that is, first of all, built on a solid foundations of evidence-based research. So we can really trust the science and the quality of the information that we are using. Now, for the first time, we are also packaging some of our research and expertise that we've been using with our clients. We are packaging those into accreditations and training programs that we can pass it on to other experts in the field. And by joining our efforts with different experts in the field of health, well-being, and performance, we can really increase their capacity to provide services at scale to their organizations. Now, we also have access to the technology and always are looking to use innovation, to use those digital channels to measure our services and our interventions, but also to make sure that our reach is beyond to what we could do just through the human interaction in one-to-one setting. But to make all of this ecosystem work, we need those 4 key ingredients that we have mentioned before that make all of the wheels go round. So let's take time now to look at each of those in turn. So starting with behavioral science. Now, we use this term very broadly, but what we really mean is combination of a lot of different sciences that explain the human experience, why we feel the way we feel, why we behave the way we behave, what makes us suffer, what makes us succeed, and what are all of these drivers that shape our health, well-being, happiness, and performance. It is important to realize that the way we live in our modern world, in our society, is just simply not how we have evolved to thrive over millions of years. We think about mental health and that it's completely disconnected from our physical health. So there is a huge disconnect between our head and body, and we think that we are these rational, intelligent human beings, and we forget that our physical health has that huge impact on our emotional and mental health. As individuals, we are more and more isolated from the rest of the society. So many people feel lonely and don't feel like they are belong, even if they are in a crowded places, even if they have jobs and if they belong to communities. So there is huge disconnect between that shared purpose, that shared mission, and a sense of belonging, being part of something bigger, being part of the group with other individuals. And as human beings as well, we are disconnected from our wider environment. We are not living in line with our nature. We are not living in line with and in harmony with the planet. And hence all of these environmental disasters that we are creating as a result of this lack of knowledge about how we've really evolved to thrive. So the lack of that knowledge has huge implications on our physical and mental health. It affects our immune system, our relationships. It influences how we build our education systems, the buildings and architecture that we construct. It has then effect on the climate and on our daily simple actions and behaviors, the way we live and the way we work. But if we want to make a difference, if we want to make that impact first at that individual level, we have to understand how human nervous system responds to that environment in the context of evolutionary history, right? And how our nervous system is shaped by interactions, by our surroundings, by our actions, our habits and behaviors. But even though we know that there is a lot of crisis and there's a lot of toxic environments and there's a lot of trouble nowadays in the world, not everyone struggles, right? And I'm sure that you will know some people who can thrive with those challenges. So what is the difference? If we take few people and we put some of them into these challenging, stressful situations, some of them will actually grow and become stronger and better. And yet other people will struggle in exactly the same situation, in exactly the same environment. They might end up suffering with a variety of mental health issues, maybe not even wanting to live. So what makes that difference? Well, I've been asking this question myself for nearly 2 decades, actually, since I've moved to UK first. So you probably know that I am from Lithuania, and here are some extra brownie points for you. If you know that Lithuania is one of those countries with the highest suicide rates in the world. So I have spent many years volunteering in a charity called Matri, helping suicidal people. So what have I learned? I have realized that there are a lot of factors that influence our ability to lead those happy, fulfilling lives. And some of those include life circumstances and current economic status and education. But a lot of that also comes from our childhood, from our past, from our upbringing, from our ability to maintain some of those support connections and thrive with life's challenges and changes. But what I could see that by looking into a person's history, very often you can nearly understand how they got here and why they are where they are today. But what really shook me the most when I was working in that charity were some of those people who you look at them and you think, you know what, this guy has it all. And there were some of those people who you look at them and they have prestigious careers and family and children, money, good looks, you name it. And yet they are in this respite center for suicidal people not wanting to live. And I was on the other side of the table helping them. And yet I was in a very, very different situation. And yet I never felt this way, despite of all the challenges that I went through. So that really sparked that question for me, what makes that difference? So what makes that difference? Let's see. Well, for many years, I thought that the answer must be in the individual levels of resilience, right? If you're a more resilient person, of course, you will be able to cope with more pressure, with more stress, with more challenges. You will be able to bounce back after those difficulties happen, and they might not affect you to such a deep extent as compared to some other people who might be less resilient. I love this quote by this influencer you might recognize. So Charles Darwin said that it is not the strongest nor the most intelligent that survive, but the one who is most adapted to change. And I thought that the definition of resilience in that case is just being able to adapt, being able to thrive with that change. So what does that mean? Does that mean in strength of the mindset? That means in our ability to go through and go through life regardless. And that belief served me very well on my journey. And you might know that I moved to UK when I was only 19 years old. I did not speak the language. I was not intending to stay here in UK. I only came for a short summer holiday, and I just found myself in a situation where I couldn't come back. So I ended up building a new life and family here, and being a single mom, studying, working at several jobs. I got to where I am today, and was able to build my successful business and career. So I thought that definitely this hard work and determination and the strength in the mindset is the answer. And very often when people ask me, how did I manage to do this? How I managed to build this new life in a foreign country without having any access to support and without even speaking the language? I always answer that I never asked myself, can I do this or not? I only asked how. And that attitude always showed me the way, always showed me the direction of the next steps. Until I then ended up having a tumor and burnout. And as you can imagine, when you have that strong, resilient mindset, when you believe that you are invincible, when you believe that everything is possible, you actually stop listening to your body. You don't know how to draw boundaries. You never say no. Everything becomes possible, and you just go for it at the huge, huge sacrifices. So the night before the operation, where I had to sign the agreement for agreeing with all the consequences of the operation, including my own death, I was really, really filled with a lot of regret, because I knew that I achieved some sort of success. I got to where I wanted to be, but I've sacrificed my relationships, I've sacrificed my health, I've sacrificed time to be spent with my loved ones. I didn't have time to do for other things that I loved. And I promised to myself that I'm going to have to find a new way of living and a new way of achieving that success without sacrifices. And that realization really brought completely new dimension to my research. And I I dug into a lot more research about holistic approaches to health and well-being, so that we don't have to achieve that success at the cost of all of those sacrifices like I had. So I had to find that new way of replenishing my own energy, my own life, discovering my own purpose and meaning. I've lost interest in just working for the corporate environment, in a corporate environment for the sake of money. I was looking for meaning and purpose. And I realized that a lot of those problems that we're creating in our society is because we're not listening to ourselves. We don't know anymore how to intuitively do the right thing for ourselves, for our family, for other people, for our employees, and for the world. We cause so much damage because we just simply don't know anymore how to listen, and we are so disconnected from these different aspects of intelligence that exist in a world. So that became my mission, to reconnect with those and also to guide others to do the same. So what are those different levels of intelligence that I'm speaking about? Well, we live life as if we are these rational, intelligent human beings able to achieve everything at will. So we are really only thinking about our human brain, our neocortex, and logic and reason. But we have all these other brains, right? We have huge nervous intelligence centers in the areas of our heart and in our gut that has its own innate intelligence. And here we are looking at not only at the cognitive intelligence, but now we're looking at the emotional intelligence. We're looking at things that are very often cannot be expressed in words, but are very much felt and sensed and recognized in others. This ability to connect with other people, inner intuition, ability to build and maintain right relationships. And we have this somatic intelligence that just really lives so deep in our nervous system, in our tissues of our body. And very often therapy, traditional therapy, doesn't work because trauma is often stored in the body. Our learnings of how we cope with lives are learned at the level that is below this cognitive rational comprehension. So we cannot solve it just by talking about it. We really need to understand all these influences that shape our development, all the way from our birth and even prenatal stages to the people that we have in our lives, to foods we eat, to surfaces we touch, and also things that go beyond our individual life. Evolutionary heritage that really programs our genes and how we respond to the challenges and current environment that we are living in today. So the science now shows that we do really have three brains. So we have head, heart, and gut. And the most recently, we have also discovered the fourth intelligence, which is our skin microbiome. And this is a symbiotic relationship with other small microbiomes that we live in harmony with them. And their ability to influence our health and well-being is huge. They can protect us against pathogens and therefore prevent some illnesses. So they can either support the host immune system or sometimes do some harm to it if the balance is not right. And some of this microbiome profiling can be used to tailor our medical treatments. It could be used to create for us better life choices and help us to make those better decisions. So there are some research that is looking into how we can tap into this to increase our health and well-being by actually partnering up with those organisms much better. And sometimes when we think about, diet, exercise, habits, and behaviors, we think about this from this only kind of rational, logical point of view, but we have to be thinking about the needs of those different intelligent systems, including the microbiota that we share this world with. And very interestingly, some of those microbiome profiles and some of these minute organisms actually influence even our character and even our behavior. There was this research about gut microbiome, actually, where there were some mice that were very outgoing and very open, and there were some other mice that were very shy and timid, and they swapped their gut microbiome, and their behavior also changed. So some of those different microbiomes have their own agendas that can manipulate the behavior of the host, and it's incredibly interesting and promising for our research of health and well-being. So just a small example why it is so crucial to understand how we have evolved to operate and really understand our mind, brain, body, and all of these symbiotic relationships that we have with these other life organisms inside our bodies, such as gut microbiome, but also our skin. But how does that translate to practice, right? So one of the easiest ways, here is a simple model that we use at Elite Mind, and it's to look at everything through the filters of being able to satisfy our inherent evolutionary needs. And some of those needs are safety, which is really for our basic survival. The second one is exploration, and the third is affiliation and being part of the group. So when we think about safety, this is really always our primary driver for any life-being organism, right? Because you just want to survive, you want to keep safe. And that translates into our daily life as the need for stability, security, certain level of routine, predictability, knowing what to expect, having something to rely on, something that is predictable, and we know that it's our safe base that we can rely on at the psychological level. So on one hand, we want the stability and familiarity and safety. On the other hand, we also want complete opposite. We want to explore, we want to try something new, we want to learn, and we want to grow. So we have to be able to balance those two conflicting needs, and they will manifest for us in different areas of life. So for example, if you are in a very safe and stable relationship that gives you that safe base at home, you're probably more likely to explore and take risks elsewhere, and you will push for career opportunities at work. You might take on some other hobbies that will push your limits and growth. But if you don't have that maybe safe base in your private life, then you might potentially be looking for that stability in employment. So you might not be that person who just wants to challenge themselves every day and push for the new career horizons. You might be just simply interested in having that stability in income, in daily routine, in knowing what's expected of you, having clarity of expectations, and that routine can satisfy that psychological safety for a lot of people. So understanding some of those needs are really crucial. And third bit is affiliation. And if you think about this, for millions of years, we would have not been able to survive on our own. We are social animals. We have survived throughout evolution by being part of the group. Therefore, any kind of exclusion or not feeling valued, not feeling appreciated, liked, or loved will feel life-threatening, literally. And even nowadays, we don't have the same threats, and we are perfectly capable of surviving on our own. our brain has not caught up yet with that huge difference between how it evolved to thrive and the way we live in our modern world. So we're creating a lot of conflict for ourselves because of this. So it's very important that we understand those needs, but also there are then huge differences in how those needs manifest for each person. What feels safe to me and what is dangerous to me will be completely different to somebody else, even my siblings and some other closest people who seemingly had quite similar experiences, right? Our willingness to explore and take risks will be very different for each individual. Our needs from others, our ability to build social bonds and to create those community interactions will also be very different. And it's affected by so many different factors, neurobiological, social, our upbringing, our status, our genetic factors. There's so many different factors that affect all of this that are often simply just not even taken in consideration when we are suffering with mental health issues. But when we understand those needs, when we understand what really drives human behavior and interactions, when we understand those principles, we can then apply it to create those better environments strategically in businesses. So we are always making sure that at Elite Mind, we have practical tools to help people to help themselves, and that our support for organizations is not just a one-off tick box exercise, but it's an activity that helps to build a capacity for that organization to help themselves and for each individual to then to be able to look after their own health and well-being in that current circumstance. And now, I think I've been very privileged that I had an opportunity to work with many, many organizations, and my corporate experiences in management, in leadership development, in talent strategy. I helped businesses scale and grow by developing their teams and developing their leadership. But I know that this is not true for most health and well-being practitioners, because the best experts in human health and well-being are not experts in business strategy, and very often, to the point that very often they struggle to run their own businesses and generate their own consistent income. So regardless of how good they are as experts in those fields, when they come to that business context, it is very difficult for them to translate it into their strategic interventions. So I am often invited to share some of those insights and tools on stages, on expert panel debates, and I would like to share that with you as well. Overall, we really have to be considering only 4 aspects to make sure that we are embedding the knowledge about human health and well-being at those 4 different levels. So first and most important, that is training and development. We need to make sure that our people have knowledge, self-awareness, and practical tools to address some of their own health and well-being concerns. And that means giving them tools for resilience, for better performance, for ability to ask for help and communicate. It also means that we have to provide for them for these different needs that we have evolved to have. So those growth opportunities are crucial at every stage of your journey, and yet they have to be personalized. Everyone wants to grow and everybody wants to explore, yet how and where we do that will be very, very different. And very often we see that organizations don't know how to tailor their training and development opportunities to provide for the needs of each individual. We usually train our staff for the skills that are good for the business, but not necessarily for what is it good for them as human beings? Do we guide them how to discover their own purpose? Do we guide them to create a better life-work balance? Do we support them through building healthier relationships? Do we support them through their parenting experiences? Do we guide them through menopause and bereavement and so on? So a lot of their training and development has to involve giving them the knowledge and tools to be able to go through those challenges themselves, which brings us to that support infrastructure. There is a fine balance between allowing individual to help themselves, creating that supportive environment that enables them to be their best in that context, but also directing them to further external expert support, because we cannot expect now every line manager to also be a therapist or coach, right? We still have our businesses to run, and therefore we need to know the boundaries. What is our internal capacity within the organization to provide that support internally? And of course, we always want to be interested in building that capacity to the best that it can be, but also knowing our own limitations, knowing our own professional boundaries, and knowing where exactly we can direct individuals for that further help and support. Third, we then have to look at the governance and compliance, because it's not enough just to do things the way we do. We need to make sure that we have clarity of expectations to our employees about what is expected of us in different case of scenarios, both professionally in our working life, but also personally. Where do I go when things happen in my personal life? Who do I contact? Who do I ask for help? What financial support is available for me? What legal and moral obligations we have as businesses to provide for those employees. So it is incredibly important that we have those very clearly outlined guidelines, and the most importantly, that people know where those guidelines are and they can find them when they are in need. Because sometimes companies have access to support and they have these documents, and yet they are not being lived, and people don't live and breathe through those in their daily life. So it's incredibly important that our training and development, our support infrastructure, and the way we lead those businesses actually aligns with our legal and operational processes, standards, and procedures. And this is also very important, that we have at the leadership level, at the board level, we have those advocates who care for people, who are interested in driving the development and growth of each individual as a human being, and also using their work environment as that support intervention that can make a difference for people. Now, finally, once we take action, once we implement some interventions, once we engage with specific supports, we need to know that it makes a difference. And we need to understand the mechanisms for how it makes a difference. So we can make adjustments, we can correct what doesn't work. And there are two levels that we need to be monitoring. So first is the health of our organization. So we're looking at our processes, policies, procedures, our governance and compliance, the health of our culture, right? But also we then need to look at what impact does it have on each individual. And does this environment provide for each individual's needs or not? And if it doesn't, we need to take that feedback into consideration and then adjust that system. And in the same way, we need to make sure that we are training our people to build those better ecosystems and also be better in maintaining their own health and well-being, providing for their own needs. So we're really building that resilience at organizational level, but also at individual level, and constantly measuring the relationship between the two. Which brings us to another very important question, but how do you measure the invisible? How do you measure the subjective? right? It's very easy to simply check your documents and see if you have specific policies and procedures in a place. It's very easy to check your financial reports and to see your profit or turnover or recruitment data. But how do you measure things like companies' culture? How do you measure organizational well-being? How do you even measure individual resilience and someone's ability to cope with those challenges and stresses? So it's incredibly, incredibly important that as we start implementing those strategic actions into organizations, we have to find a way to measure all of those things, because we have to demonstrate the ROI of all of our actions at the business level and at individual level if we want to get the buy-in from the leadership team to implement our services. So that brings us to the third point, and the importance of having impact measures to demonstrate the ROI of our actions and support interventions. So how do we do that at Elite Mind? And I would like to introduce you to this wonderful tool that we have developed, Wellbeing Compass, and officially it is Elite Mind Brain Index. And this is an assessment that allows us to measure our emotional, cognitive, social, and physical well-being, and most importantly, our ability to maintain all of those aspects in our life. Because, as you know, the current mental health system really measures symptoms and outcomes, right? So it asks you, are you feeling blue? For how long are you feeling blue? And here is your depression, right? But it doesn't dig deeper to understand, why are you feeling this way? What exactly has contributed to those factors? And if we don't know what is contributing to that, then it becomes impossible for us to change and to do something about it. So our goal for developing this assessment was to, first of all, give awareness to individuals about their own life circumstances and about their own abilities to self-regulate their emotions, for example, to build resilience in face of different challenges, their own quality of mind-body balance and ability to tune in to some of these different centers of intelligence that we have in our body. We're looking at the health of your mindset and attitude and some of the cognitive approaches that we can strengthen. We look at our ability to take action, because very often we know what's right for us, but many people still don't act on this, and they choose to do things that are harmful regardless. So the ability to execute this is like a muscle, and it is a skill that can be trained if we only know how. And if we understand this complexity of what drives us as human beings, then we are able to build those skills. We look at things like mindset and motivation, and how can we improve that? Because the best motivation is not stick and carrot and external rewards, but really intrinsic motivation, where individual has alignment with their own purpose, with their own inner identity, and they know how they are contributing to the greater good. It's very important as well that we are considering the social well-being. We are considering access to support, strength of your networks, and also there is a big difference between someone not having that social support and somebody who has that and yet is not using it, because their own self-esteem and confidence, or simply ability to open up and talk about sensitive issues, will still mean that they don't ask for help. So we look at all of these complex nuances that affect our health and well-being, and that also includes physical health. Physical health is very rarely taken in consideration when we talk about mental health. And of course, GPs will tell you to eat healthier and exercise, but what exactly does that mean for you? And what are some of the specific processes in your body that drive your health and well-being? individuals are never given that knowledge. And we now know that things like gut microbiome and the health of your gut has huge impact on your mental health. And over 95% of serotonin is actually produced in your gut, not in your brain. So we are medicating people to increase their level of serotonin, but actually maybe we just need to fix their gut to make sure that their body knows how to synthesize that from the food, and that it can translate into that greater well-being. But also, there are other processes such as inflammation, such as chemical and hormonal influences that are not, again, considered in when we are talking about mental health. For example, 40% of women who start menopause are given antidepressants because simply symptoms are too similar, and if we are not looking at the causes, we end up just fixing the wrong pain instead of really addressing the underlying issue. So this assessment is really key for us in making sure that every individual knows that starting point and has tools and resources to help themselves based on the results that, of this assessment. So how does it look like in practice? So if you are an individual or an employee in the organization looking to assess your own health and well-being, you would complete this assessment and you would be given score for all of these 12 areas in 4 categories. And you will receive a tailored dashboard, tailored report with very personalized recommendations for action. And it's very important for us that we give tools to each individual to make their own better decisions and to prioritize specific areas of development that can make the biggest difference. And based on those results, then we can provide for them access to tailored resources, to tailored information, to tailored training. Now, some of this training can be free, some of this training can be paid, but the most important that all of those resources are being developed by professionals and experts in the field who we are training to be able to provide this support using our Elite Mind coaching and consulting models. And considering complexity of health and well-being, we know that there is no any one individual that could possibly address all of those different areas of expertise. That's why that support network is so crucial. And using a model like this, what this means that it completely takes away the pain from someone making a decision for what type of support I need, what action do I need to take next to make a difference, how do I prioritize things that can really, really impact my health and well-being in the right way. In this world where access to information is plenty, how do you invest your time in things that will help you to feel better and do better? And again, having this having the real person behind each piece of information that is being tailored for us, that means that we have ability for each person who's using this assessment to then reach out to the professional in person because they now had a taster of their approach through these free access to resources, to some tailored trainings and resources that are digital, but it's obviously not always enough. So very important to have those specialists, a network of specialists in different fields in that community. And that brings us to that 4th aspect, which is that support network and community. It is important that we surround ourselves with people who are on the same mission, but have complementary skills so that together we can cover each other's areas of weaknesses. We can really tap into each other's strengths to maximize on that difference that we can make together. And we have a little model in our community, and I believe that we need to surround ourselves with 3 different levels of community networks. So first of all, we need to have in our network people who are above us in some way. So we can look up to them, we can learn and grow. We can really use them as those inspiring role models that encourages us to constantly improve. And we can use them as an example for how they have done this. But if we always only looking up, that can make us feel like we are never good enough. Like in comparison, we are not good. And sometimes things like imposter syndrome is a mismatch between our internal sense of identity and our external identity. And to develop this healthy identity, we have to make sure that we not only surround ourselves with other people in our close network, that we're not just looking up to them, we need to have them in our close network, but also that we find other people that we can lead and we can share our own skills and our own experiences with them to give us that boost in how far we've come and appreciation in our own knowledge and our own skills and resources. And somewhere in between, there are people who are just like us, who are on the same journey, who are somehow at the same level. And it's so important that we can just, at some point, we don't need to take any roles of learning or leading. We can just be in that moment. We can love and laugh and just share the journey and have that sense of belonging and shared experience of support. And at Elite Mind Academy, we have a membership that allows us to build that community of support for other like-minded individuals. In our community, we have, to our members, we provide access to business development resources. We also make sure that we find time for well-being and for self-care. And we grow and improve your practice through quality supervision. It's so important to maintain those high standards and not get complacent, especially when we are working with mental health. We really might be playing with someone's life. It's very, very important that we have the right support and the right knowledge. And again, it's important we have support and accountability. So we do have weekly focus networking groups, and that is really just to reflect on your week, to share the wins, to share your struggles, to set intentions and goals for the next week, to support each other, to ask for help, and to enjoy the journey together. So when we combine those 4 elements together, you can see how it brings us back to that elite mind universe that we are building based on academic research, delivering this right education and training for other professionals to really understand what drives human well-being and performance, to apply this to organizations at the strategic consulting level and utilize technology and the innovation to drive those solutions digitally. And we are at the moment looking for a small group of professionals, experts in their own field, who would like to become our Elite Mind coaches and consultants. And I'm very, very excited to share with you that we have created this unique qualification program, Coaching for Mental Health. And this is accredited to level 5 diploma. And it's really, really unique qualification that brings together, bridges the gap between therapy and coaching and business strategy and that human touch, and allows us to learn about the latest research that took for me, probably over 12 years to gather, and it's always in progress. There's always new insights and new research, that we translate them into those practical coaching tools to then make a difference at individual level as well as at organizational level. Now, there are several levels of this training course. So the level 5 is built in mind with other experts, professionals, coaches, therapists who are working in health and well-being and consulting fields with their clients. So they would be using this knowledge for their professional work. But maybe not everybody wants to become a a coach or wants to have this knowledge for their own business. Some people might just want their own self-development, for supporting their own health and well-being, maybe for being able to support your colleagues or your family much better. So we have a level down, level 3 for that, which would be a little bit easier version that has the same theory and content, but does not involve the practical coaching tools and supervision practice that is required for you to pass level 5. Some other people as well will want to have a level up, where instead of just being working on one-to-one basis, you would like to work with organizations and you want to learn strategic tools, how to apply this at scale in organizations. And that's where level 7 comes in place. So this is a double certification and qualification, which means that people who are completing, let's say, level 5, they will become elite mind coaches, but also they will have level 5 qualification in coaching for mental health, which is an academic level training and qualification. In the same way, level 7 will lead you to becoming elite mind consultant and to be able to use consulting models and diagnostic approaches and interventions with organizations, whether that's for your clients and for your own business, as well as having that academic qualification. And level 7 is equivalent to a master's level education. And level 3 is a self-paced study, which does not necessarily require practical applications. It's really open for anyone who is willing to learn a little bit more and want to be having access to the latest research in neuroscience, in human health and performance. So let's look at how that course curriculum looks like. So it is a 10-month program. It is delivered live, but some of it is being done remotely, online, virtually, and some of it is in person. So the first month is completely online and it's self-paced, and it just allows you to just roll into and ease into that process of learning at your own pace and time. But on month 2, you would then attend a 4-day residential retreat where we are covering our introductory models about human nervous system, about evolution of mental health and the system of mental health. We're looking to learn elite mind coaching approaches and models. We are looking to establish those bases for self-care and well-being, because in the industries like coaching and therapy, where we are always looking after someone else, when we're always helping others, it's just so easy to neglect yourself. It's so easy to just forget about your own needs. So we really want to get this right, and we really want to create this opportunity to learn together in person with like-minded individuals, with a residential retreat included in your training. Then months 3 to 9, we have the remaining modules where we are digging deeper into different mental health disorders, different conditions. We are looking at how our mind and brain works to learn from information, from experiences, from relationships, what happens when we have trauma, how we can use things like breathing and cognitive reframing to help ourselves with that, how we can utilize neuroscience knowledge about, let's say, gut-brain axis and utilizing our environments to improve our health and well-being. So each module has in-depth knowledge on very specific topics, and I encourage you to download the brochure, which is on this page where you are watching this webinar, so you can see the full curriculum for each module, for what exactly it's covered in terms of content. Now, as for the assessments, we have a variety of assessments. Some of them are just multiple choice questionnaires online, but most importantly, you will have to complete 10 practice coaching sessions with your supervisor, where you will be assessed on your ability to apply some of those Elite Mind coaching models and your ability to apply right tools and techniques in line with specific conditions of your client. We will also make sure that you have practical applications, and there will be a case study to present at the end, when you'll have to showcase how exactly you can apply this in your personal area of expertise, in your professional area of work. So what else is included as part of your training? So I've already mentioned this 4-day all-inclusive residential. It is in Windsor, so it is a nice royal treat for you. We will not be staying at the castle. However, I can really guarantee that we will have a bit of a royal treatment over those few days. What we are also including is 1-year Elite Mind Academy membership for everyone who completes that training. So the membership starts after you complete the training, which means that you really have nearly 2 years of our support included as part of this program. And the best left for last is that this training program has a lifetime ticket, which means that you only invest once and you are able to reattend this training course anytime in the future, as many times as you like. Yes, it might sound too good to be true. However, if you know, the latest research in neuroscience, in human health, is always changing, and I'm always researching. We have an entire research department, and new insights as they come up, as we develop new interventions, as we work with more clients, we constantly evolving our knowledge, our own approach, our own techniques. And therefore, I really want to role model that growth and development for each and every one of you. And I think we all should have a right to have access to the latest research. And therefore, I want to make sure that nobody has limitations for and barriers for accessing that. For the right individuals, I want to make sure that this would be accessible to you for as long as you want to benefit from our knowledge. Now, we are only looking for very specific areas of expertise. So as you remember, when we were looking at our assessment for well-being, it had very different areas, subject areas of expertise that we're looking at it. We want to make sure that we have experts in each area, and therefore this process becomes quite competitive, because we don't need 10 relationship counselors, and we don't need 10 of financial advisors, or whatever that area of the specialism that you might be. We only need one. And by doing this, we really want to make sure that we choose the right individual for our community. And and that we don't create internal competition and conflict. So each area of expertise is protected in our community from that point of view. Now, this training, for this reason, is designed to be for already experienced experts in the field who are already specializing in some sort of area. So it's not for generalists who can do it all, and it's not for new people who just want to maybe start their own therapy or coaching. The level of academic delivery that is required in this course is quite advanced, and therefore it's not suitable for new people. However, I know that there are some amazing people who are specialists, and they do specialize in a variety of fields, and therefore there will be some exceptions, but we will make sure that we can also help you to tailor your branding, your marketing, your positioning based on other people's areas of expertise, so you can really benefit the most from being as part of our community. Now, this is also for professionals who are looking for intensive personal growth and professional development. So I know that very often when I share our Elite Mind approach and model, there are opportunities for you to have new clients. There are opportunities for you to benefit from being placed into organizations, to be referred to clients through some of our digital solutions, such as the Wellbeing Compass assessment. But if you want to be applying for this simply because you think this is going to get you leads and clients, then you are applying for wrong reasons. We really want to make sure that people who come on board, they are here because they want to make an impact, and they share the same vision and values with us, and they genuinely want to make that contribution to our community, to organizations, and also to the world. And most of the time, that's where the biggest rewards in life and business come, when we give first. So what's next, and how exactly you can get involved? So first of all, I mentioned already before, I suggest for you to download the brochure so you can see the full course curriculum, all of the dates, just to make sure that this is exactly what you're looking for, that the knowledge and areas of training and development covered is something that you can benefit from professionally and personally. And if that's the case, then please do hit the button in this page to complete an application process. Now, our applications are designed to check for some of these eligibility criteria to make sure that you fit in our community and with our values, but also that you have that specific area of expertise that we are looking for at the moment to fit for the needs of our business right now. Because it's quite competitive, we would also give you an opportunity to reserve your seat in advance, just simply by paying £1 deposit. And this might be quite a simple little thing. However, as a psychologist, understanding how our human brain and mind works, I know very well that as soon as we are committed to put our money on a table, it just simply demonstrates for us the level of commitment that you have to take this seriously, and we're going to prioritize the application in that case. And then you just book an interview. Finally, if your application is successful, your final stage will be an interview when we discuss what contribution you are able to bring to our community and any other support that you would require from us. And hopefully we can see with you on that journey. And hopefully we can share this journey with you. And if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me anytime. You can have my contacts on our website. You can find a little bit more information about us as a company and our team on the same website as well. Please connect with me on LinkedIn if you are not connected yet. And also feel free to email me or even message and text me with any questions you have. So thank you very much. It's been a privilege sharing some of those insights and some of my personal stories with you. And I am looking forward to learning about you as well. Have a lovely day.